Hey, it's Roger with Kinsta.
Awesome.
I'm joined with my good friend Michael here. Hey, Michael, how are you?
Hey, I'm doing good, Roger. Thanks for having me.
Hey, it's always great to have you. I really appreciate you spending some time today to help us create an effective online course. Of course, I can't bring up the timeline right now. Give me 1 second. I'm prepared. I showed up for class with my pencils sharpened. Um, So, Michael, just as a quick reminder and helpful kind of walkthrough for everybody, um, what can we kind of expect to go through in learning how to create an online course today?
Yep, a number of things. Good question. So, if you're in this live right now, first of all, I'm super excited. Talking about online courses is my jam. I just love it so much. I could talk about it for days. Anyway, we're going to talk about 5 reasons why you should consider creating an online course in 2025. Like, what's the talk of the town? Our online course is dead, right? And then we're also going to talk about why WordPress is the best platform for hosting an online course. And then I want to share the stupid, simple 3-step process to creating and selling an online course. Most people get tied up with the complexity of creating a course. I'm hoping that in this session I'll be able to kind of make it a bit easier to understand and to dive into.
Excellent. No, and I know that, speaking personally, I have thought about, maybe should create an online course and share some information that maybe I've gleaned over my many years of working and living in the world, but I always run into a couple of different things. And I've had some friends even reach out to me excited about this webinar who, they expressed there's the imposter syndrome, right? Is probably like, that for me is a big one is, well, who am I to think that I can teach people something? They can just go onto Google and they can learn it there.
Right.
Just kind of like starting really high level with it, how do you help people kind of maybe get over their concerns about maybe imposter syndrome or not knowing enough? What's kind of your approach there?
Yeah, so it's a good question, and it's a very common question that I get for people who approach me and they're like, hey, I heard about this online course thing. How do I approach it? And there are a number of things that I hear when they come to me. Things like, online courses are difficult to create. I don't know where to start. Online courses are expensive to build. I don't want to be on camera. I'm not qualified enough to teach, and then potentially some people are thinking, well, no, who's going to buy from me? No one is going to buy from me. And the thing that I tell most people to do is to just take it in steps. First of all, you need to identify what are your skill sets. And most people, that's a difficult question to answer, Roger. Most people don't always think about their own skill sets and their expertise because they look to different gurus and experts and see where they're at and they compare themselves. And so comparison is the thief of joy, right? If you compare yourself to someone who is maybe further along than you, more than likely you're going to feel a level of imposter syndrome. You're going to feel like, well, I'm not at their level, so who am I to share this? So I think just figuring out, okay, what are my current skill sets? What is my expertise right now? And it could be something like, let's say, for instance, I'm trying to help someone to learn how to use a camera, right? It's one of my skill sets I'm using here as an example. I may not be someone in Hollywood who's using these $50,000 high-tech cameras. I don't know how to operate those, but I do know how to operate a DSLR, a mirrorless camera, maybe a point and shoot, and I can show them, okay, this is how you change the ISO and the aperture and simple things, taking them from A to B. I don't have to show them the entire spectrum. So the more you understand what you are capable of doing and the value you bring, it's easier then to be like, okay, well, you know what? I have some expertise that I can share with the world.
Excellent. Yes, and I think that that's a great kind of starting place, is making sure that you meet yourself where you're at. Also, I love the saying, comparison's the thief of joy. I like, that's a mantra for me. I have to constantly remind myself to, it's important to compare at some point, right? At some point we have to go to market and whatnot, but to get started with things, you have to start with where you're at and with what you have to work with. So as we move into this, we kind of covered the agenda a little bit. We're going to get into, why it's a great opportunity, your 3 core strategy, and then even launching and growing the course. So I'm really excited to kind of dig into this here a little bit. And I'm also excited, I need to mention, of course, I work with Kinsta, so we're a WordPress hosting company. We specialize in hosting WordPress websites, and Michael is a expert online course creator. You've been doing this for many, many years for tons of clients. You've spoken at WordCamp US, so you're an expert in this field. I'm really excited to kind of dive into this, and I'm pretty sure I'm going to play as the guinea pig for you, and we're gonna kind of workshop a course that for me to possibly teach. So I'm really excited about that as well.
Yeah, we're gonna have some fun with it.
Beautiful, beautiful. Okay, so I think the first step really to jump into here, and for the people that are watching, maybe some ways to kind of frame is why online courses are a great opportunity. And, maybe you can help us speak into, we've kind of talked a little bit about getting over the hump of maybe imposter syndrome and just realizing that you have value and things that you can share with people. But, where's really the opportunity that you're seeing in the marketplace for online courses? Do you have like some data or stats to talk with us about that?
Yeah, sure. Am I able to share my screen?
Yes, absolutely. Right at the bottom there.
Okay, let me go ahead and do that. All right, here we go. Okay, Riverside needs the privileges, so.
No worries. And this is just proving to everybody at home that we're doing this live.
Awesome. There we go. Share.
Perfect.
All right, let me know if you can see it, Roger. Yeah?
Yes, sir. Looks great.
Awesome. So let me step back a bit actually here. So just to highlight what these 5 reasons are. The first is that there's a high demand for online courses and for online education. Second is obviously what we all crave, the high income potential. Third is most people just want that financial freedom or some type of freedom, whether it's from their job, escape the rat race. And then fourth, there is a low barrier to entry and adaptability. And fifth, to build an authority and impact. So to answer your first question, some stats around why online courses and why now. I took a look at a Forbes article recently, and it says that there are 5.35 billion internet users worldwide. Just think about that for a second, Roger. 5.35 billion users on the internet right now.
That's a lot of
and
people.
A lot of them, it's a lot of people. And it's expected to increase, right, by the year 2029. Okay. And so what does that indicate for us? That means that there are people, a portion of those people who are currently looking online for education or to learn some sort of skill set. And so the e-learning industry specifically is actually bringing in $214 billion in 2021. And I believe by 2026, it should be $340 million.
Wow.
Sorry, $1 billion with a B.
Yep, move the comma, yes.
So even just having a small portion of that is a high incentive, but I think just in the current state of the world that we're in, people just need online education. And so I think there's no other better time than now to kind of, get started in it.
No, absolutely. I think these are great stats. There's lots of people online. I know that I do a lot of online courses, and sometimes they're great. Sometimes I feel a lot of value out of them. There's other times where I'm kind of wondering if they could have maybe planned a little bit better. And so, hopefully this course will kind of dive into that a little bit better for people.
Absolutely, absolutely. If we move on, just think about it. There is a ton of information on the internet right now. We have ChatGPT, we have Claude, different AI models, we have YouTube videos, all sorts of information. However, what tends to happen if you think about a computer, if you just throw a bunch of information at it, computers use a RAM, right? And if you overload the RAM, at some point your computer's going to crash. And I believe that we're built the same way, where if we just get consumed so much information, it's very difficult to decipher what's best. So we need some level of order. So that is exactly what a course does. It helps you take that fumbled mumbo jumbo that is in your head or that you're feeding yourself and really streamline the process. Give you a streamlined process for the person that you're teaching to really understand it. And of course, we have the high income potential. This was a client of mine. We worked together, and in the first 3 months of actually just understanding the ideal customer avatar and building their course, they were able to generate 6 figures in revenue in sales from this online course. All right. And then I myself realized, wow, I was able to accomplish this for a client. How can this help me? And so I started really small selling online courses here, at $37, $54, really just adding value until I was able to kind of scale courses up to $1,000. And so I was really able to create freedom for myself in this way. And it was all from the comfort of I'm working from my kitchen, you know what I'm saying? So this is one of the incentives for me. And then there's, like I said, no better time than now. There's a low barrier to entry. You don't need to have a physical classroom. You can use your computer or webcam and a microphone, and you can get started with an online course, at least in the creation process of it. And it's flexible. You know, you can create your course at your own time, and you can work around your existing schedule. So even if you're working a 9 to 5, you can still create a course, right? And do it at your own pace, so that, it's not taking over your responsibilities. And for me personally, Roger, it's been helpful in that I've been able to establish myself as an authority in this space, right? In some instances, I've even landed brand deals or speaking opportunities like I am now with you, with Kinsta, one of the major hosting platforms for WordPress, among many other things. So that's just a couple of the reasons why you may want to start a course in 2025.
I think those are all really great points, and I'm excited to kind of dive into more here. And I think, I wonder if we want to just speak for a second again about the creative impulse here. And we've got this opportunity. All these tools are available to us. And yet, the majority of us are not creating online courses, right? The majority of us are going about our day. We've got a great job. We're very effective at it, but we're not taking the time to create a course and really maybe expand not only our potential, but also help everybody else around us. And so I think as we're diving now maybe into this 3 core strategies part. And the first part, the reason that I'm most excited about this conversation with you, Michael, is you're putting the technology at the very end. And so let's go ahead and start jumping into how to actually create this course and what are your strategies that you work with your clients on to really help them unlock this.
Yeah, so I'm going to share my screen here again.
Yeah.
And whilst I'm doing that, I think you're absolutely right. I think that whilst the technical aspect of creating an online course has its place, you really just want to focus in on the less tangible things and the planning and the strategizing before. So we're going to talk a little bit about that here. Share. How are we looking? Can you see?
I love it. I love the title.
So the stupid simple 3-step process to creating an online course. Now, I made some amendments. I was like, you know what? Maybe it's not exactly 3 steps. Maybe it's 4 steps.
Okay.
So you'll see an additional step here. But it's super simple, Roger. The first thing you need to do is identify a niche that solves a problem.
Okay.
Identify a niche that solves a problem. Obviously something that you're capable of facilitating, right? And then the second thing is developing a course MVP. In the tech space, an MVP is a minimal viable product. It's literally just the bare bones, the skeleton of what you're trying to create, right? Most times what happens is most people, when they decide to, or they're thinking about creating an online course, Most times they get lost in the weeds of all the technical aspects of different things and how much information needs to be inside of the course, how many videos, how many documents, because they believe that adds more value for the person on the back end. But the reality of it is, we spoke about it previously, is that people are seeking transformation and not information.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
And so for you as an expert or as an aspiring course creator or coach, what you need to develop is just the bare bones. What can I create that it just gives me a clear outline or rubric of what needs to be included in this program? All right? And just really quickly, a good rule of thumb to do this, I like the rule of threes. Just think about the beginning, the end, and the middle. And in between there, you can kind of figure out, okay, if I want this person to get to this point here, what does that process look like? What do they absolutely need to know? And you keep asking, is that necessary? Is that necessary? Until you determine, okay, this is the exact process that is required for them to get from here to here. All right? So that's the second process. And then once you've done that, you've built an outline, you then want to build an audience.
Okay.
Right? One of the biggest mistakes that I made when I initially created my course was I developed all the course material. I spent hours and hours recording and making sure that I had everything set up. And then when it was time for me to actually sell my course, it was cricket, right? No one showed up. I just had a website and I had a landing page, but I hadn't really built any sort of leverage, or in this case, an audience, to be able to see my content, to look at my offer. And so this is absolutely crucial. And there are a number of ways we can talk about in building an audience. We'll get into that a little later. But once you've built an audience of people who know, like, and trust you, then you just want to do a pre-launch.
Okay.
You're going to pre-launch your program and sell it before you even create the content. Before you create the content for the course, you want to sell it.
Okay.
Right? And most people are like, oh my gosh, it feels so like unethical for me to sell something that hasn't already been created yet.
Okay.
But one way to validate whether people want something or not is to get some funds, get some money in the bank. You know, when people put their money where their mouth is, that's when we know that they're absolutely sold on it.
Absolutely, and I think just to pause there for a second, you brought up the ethicalness of selling something that you haven't finished yet. I mean, this happens all the time, where you build the product and you're building the product as you're trying to gauge interest, and there's really no better way to gauge interest than to ask people to put their money down. If they're not willing to put down any money, then maybe the interest isn't there. Maybe you need to go back to the MVP and retweak it a little bit. Is that kind of the approach?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, that's what I had to do. When I initially built an online course, it was for a videography business to show other videographers how to use a camera and how to find a client. And I went so hard into the technical aspects of the camera and making sure you can create stunning footage at a high quality. And I think one of the things I realized is after I learned this from another coach. She said, hey, you need to create a form and do a survey and find out what their actual pain points are. What do they actually want? And I found out that it wasn't about the technical aspects. They were struggling with getting clients. And so I had to pivot and change to, okay, how did I get my first client? Kind of figuring out what was my process in doing that. And so that's what I pivoted my course to do. So yeah, absolutely.
Excellent. All right, cool. All right, so should we go ahead and dive in here?
Yes, let's dive into it. So, and obviously, so while there's that full process, there are aspects of it that you do after you've done that, right? I'm not discounting the fact that you do need to create the content, you do need to test and refine the course, and then you can publicly launch it to persons who are not your beta testers, and then you constantly improve it, right?
Yeah.
So here's what you do. Step one, you identify your passion and niche. What that means is you're going to reflect on your skills and knowledge. I mentioned that previously. And you're going to consider your professional experience or your hobbies, and you can ask a trusted friend. That's one of the easiest ways you can, if you feel like, man, I don't know what I'm good at, you ask a trusted friend, hey, what do you think I'm good at, right? And then you identify your target audience based on that. You know, who would benefit most from your knowledge, your expertise, whether that's beginners or advanced learners, professionals, right? And then you want to define the specific needs. What you see on the right there is a concept called ikigai. I love it. It's a Japanese concept where the sweet spot is where you understand what you love, what the world needs, what you can be paid for, and what you're good at. The synergy of all those things is called ikigai, where you're getting fulfillment in something that you're not only competent in, but it's like your zone of genius, right? So that's step one.
Okay.
We're going to skip a few steps here.
Okay.
Like I said, we're going to create the course curriculum. I'm really trying to streamline this so that persons who are just starting out, you know, they're not getting into the weeds of it. So you're going to create your course curriculum, right? And like I said, you're going to break that down into modules and lessons.
Okay.
And like I said, the best way to do that, you look at where they are at, where they want to go, and the steps in between to get there. Right? So you're going to create a logical progression from basic to advanced. Next, what you do need to do is choose a learning platform, right? You need to put a platform, you need to think of the platform at least of where you're going to host this. So you have self-publish options or course marketplace options. I personally love the WordPress ecosystem, right? For a number of different reasons that we could get into. One is it's cost effective, it's customizable, you have ownership of the platform. However, you know, it does require some management, and there is there is a learning curve to it. But I think it's one of the best ways to go about it. And I'm not discounting SaaS platforms. It's just that in the open source world, I think it offers a lot of value there. And I don't know if you want to speak about anything there.
Yeah,
or
no,
should I move on to the next?
You know, I think, you know, we're moving a little quickly over some of the things here, and maybe we'll get back into some detail on them. But to speak to kind of choosing your learning platform for a second, you know, you've got a lot of things listed here, Udemy, Teachable, where there's marketplaces that you can go in and immediately plug yourself into them. And, you know, as you said, it's easy setup, built-in audience. The catch, though, is you don't control really what's happening with that platform. If they decide to close down, you've got no choice there. Your work is gone. If they change their rules as far as what can be taught and what you're teaching falls outside of those boundaries, you're out of luck. Whereas if you're building everything on your own platform using, for example, WordPress, which of course I'm a big fan of, you have total ownership. And so even if you run into a situation where you're not happy with the host that you're at, you can always go to another host. If you need to go in and tweak some aspect of the website, you have total control of whatever you want to control with that, whatever you want to change there. And you know, as you mentioned, there's more of an investment with WordPress because you've got to set all this stuff up. But I think that's also where, you know, finding, you know, resources such as yourself to, you know, help learn how to use these tools. There's countless YouTube videos out there for how to set up LMS plugins on WordPress. There's countless forums on Reddit and various other web designer forums that are talking about how to use these tools. And so, yes, you do need to spend some time educating yourself about that. But once you've got that, it doesn't go away. You own that. And you're ready to just kind of fly. So I don't want to bore people too much with all of that right away, but using a host like Kinsta can really resolve a lot of the headache around running a WordPress site. We're doing, you know, daily backups. We've got Cloudflare. We've got a CDN. We can do geocaching so that if you need your content to only go to certain locations, or you need different content to go to different locations, you can set all of that up with us, and we'll even help assist you through how to get that working. And so we've got a lot of people using various LMS solutions on our platform with a lot of success.
Absolutely. And just to touch into that, to some of the things you mentioned, like these would be some of the elements that you might use if you're taking, if you're going the WordPress route. All right, you need hosting, of course, you need a domain name, a page builder, or whether it's Gutenberg or Elementor, any one of those, a good theme, and I think templates are helpful. So this is primarily what you want, but I wanted to stress on the hosting a little bit because where hosting is concerned, especially with WordPress, most times the biggest challenge is having hosting that is quick enough to keep up with the number of users that you have concurrently. And so that's one of the things that I love about Kinsta, is that Kinsta uses Google's cloud platform. And if you think about it, I think, if I remember correctly, Google is, I believe it's Google that hosts Netflix, some of Netflix content. And if you think about Netflix, Netflix has a lot of different people consuming content all at the same time. And so with Kinsta or any other hosting platform or service, you want to ensure that it's scalable. You want to ensure that when those users are on the site, that it's not slowing down, that the user experience is good for your clients. And so, yeah, just wanted to touch a little bit more on the hosting, and I think Kinsta offers a great solution for that.
Well, I appreciate that. And to talk, obviously I'm a big Kinsta proponent, and I'll talk that up all day, but I think one of the really key things that people need to realize when they have an LMS site is that a lot of the site is not cacheable, because people are logged in and what they're looking at needs to be unique to their progress in the courses or whatever they're working on. And so your cache rate's going to drop, and that's where you need to make sure you have a good host that can still power the website even when caching is not in the higher percentages, which you get with a more marketing focused static website. So these are dynamic websites, very similar to e-commerce, and that's something to really keep in mind as you're building these. If you haven't built an LMS site before and you're noticing that it's going a lot slower, that's why. There's less caching happening by design. You don't want people to see what other people's courses are. You want them to see what their course is. And so as you start building LMS websites with WordPress, keep that in mind. And one of the things you may have to look for is a more powerful host that just can handle having a less cached website.
Yeah, absolutely. Great point. And just to mention some of those LMS plugins that you may want to consider. So there's LearnDash, which people refer to me sometimes as the LearnDash guy. I created content on their YouTube channel for a year and a half. And that's one of the industry-leading LMS platforms. Alongside that, you also have Lifter LMS, Shane and his team, and it's also a really great solution. You have Sensei, which is built by WordPress and Automatic themselves, and then you have Tutor LMS. So these are some of the options if you're thinking, okay, so what are the LMS options? Because one of the great things about WordPress is you have that variety and plethora of different plugins to choose from. These would be the ones that I would recommend for anyone who is considering, right?
Excellent.
So moving along into the next step, you want to build an audience. And I think the best way to do that right now is just to create valuable content. Content is still king today. And that comes in many different forms. You can do blogs, you can do videos, you can do social media content. I think platforms that are geared towards SEO are better. So anything like blogs or videos on like YouTube. YouTube is one of the biggest search engines, and it's the platform that I gravitate to the most. And so you want to put out valuable content so that you can get eyeballs on your stuff, and then because we don't own social media, we don't own the internet. You essentially want to have people in your own space of the internet, and so that's typically on your website, in your newsletter, and on your email list. And to do that, you can leverage lead magnets, right? People love free stuff, but they more so love free value, free resources. So to do that, you can offer things like checklists and templates or ebooks, case studies, or sometimes you can even use quizzes and courses. You can do courses as well as a lead magnet. All right. So as you can see, this is one of my first lead magnets in this industry: how to create and sell an online course in 8 weeks.
Excellent, excellent. Right. And so just to pause on this for a second, this I think is also an area where people can struggle because you're now putting yourself out there, right? Now you're taking the risk and you're actually approaching people and saying, hey, I want to teach you about something. And there's a possibility you're going to get some feedback that you might not want to hear. And that's just part of the process. But it's also valuable feedback, right? If you're getting a lot of people that are not interested or that are critical, like look at that as useful feedback. And so how do you kind of handle that when maybe a friend, who, you trust a lot and they've kind of been really critical about something that you're trying to do? What are some of the ways that you handle that, both internally, keeping your ego strong, but also maybe you need to make an adjust to what you're working on? What's kind of your process there?
Yeah, good question. I think if you're an entrepreneur, or if you're someone aspiring to be an entrepreneur and to put value out into the world, there are two things I think you need to consider. One is the big picture, right? Just think about the big picture. Why are you doing this? What is your reason for creating this online course, or what is your reason for creating content, right? It really should be to, I believe, making an impact in this world. And by extension, you're also trying to pursue financial freedom. And so I would encourage anyone, if they're in that headspace, to think about, how is this going to help you achieve your goals, as opposed to thinking about, the negative aspects of maybe you are going to get persecution. Maybe you are going to get negative feedback from friends, maybe even family. I think putting in perspective your why and your reason for doing what you're doing is really going to give you a foundation to build upon, and just to help keep you motivated. You know what I mean? I know for many people, showing up on camera or posting something on platform, there's a level of vulnerability that comes with that. And vulnerability is the ability to be wounded. But you need to develop, I think it's cliche, but you do need to develop a little bit of thick skin. I'm not going to lie to you. I've put up videos before where I've been berated online, and I'm like, oh my goodness. And I'm thinking, man, do I really want to do this anymore? I'm just putting myself out there. But I think I look at some of the positive comments and the people who I'm able to support, and they're like, they're so appreciative of what I'm doing, and I'm like, oh, right, that's why I'm doing this for. So I think just putting into perspective your why and your reason, and I think that should be a good motivator to continue pursuing, your goals.
I think that's great. I think it's great advice, not just for creating an online course, but it's also great advice for life in general, right? If you have a strong sense of purpose and you understand, and these things can change also, right? But if you at least have some sort of an understanding of what you're trying to achieve and why, when you have those gray days, those rainy days where maybe things aren't going exactly how you want them to go, you can always fall back on that a little bit and kind of push forward. So really great stuff here. So we're building audience, and so then where are we headed to next?
So now we need to start pre-launching. We need to start promoting with funnels and campaigns. And so one of the best ways to do it is the webinar, right? Using live sessions to engage buyers and potential students. So here you see I had Learn Dash Academy, one of my initial programs. And this was a page where I had people join to learn how to build an online course. And that was very lucrative for me. I got a bunch of people on my email list, but a lot of those people also converted. So you just want to build your email list by promoting it, like I said, using lead magnets. And then you want to be a bit more intentional by using either webinars or a landing page to show people exactly what the course is going to entail, the details of your offer, and what to expect.
Excellent. What do you, before we move on too fast, when you're managing your email list, what software are you using for collecting emails and then for when you're sending out email newsletters?
Yeah, I think there are a lot of great ones out there. The market is flooded with, but you have things like ActiveCampaign, you have Bento, which is a really good solution for people with WordPress who are a bit more technical. There's MailChimp, there's Klaviyo, there's, if you just look up email service provider, you'll probably find a number of different ones.
Excellent. Excellent.
Do you know which one Kinsta is currently using for you guys' emails?
The good news is they don't let me know anything that important, so I can't mess it up, but I should find that out, and we should get them onto one of these webinars and talk with them for sure. So thank you for the great brainstorming.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think it'd be good insight for people who may be considering that, yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, so moving along. So this is the steps once you've actually started bringing in a few students, right? You pre-launched. Now you have some people who are typically called beta testers. I know some people aren't quite fond of that name, but you have some people in your program who are going to be able to test it, and you're really just iterating the platform, right? One of the ways I would recommend going about creating content, if you're not like recording videos and you don't want to be on camera, you can screen record. However, one of the things I recommend doing as well is just hopping on Zoom with your students, preparing slides, and just taking them through the process, right? Taking them through the process, through your slides and through the information that you're giving with them. And through this process, you're going to be able to really iterate the course, because you're going to get constant feedback. You're going to get feedback on the course content and the usability of your platform. And you may even identify different pain points before you fully launch the program. And this also serves well if you didn't have an audience before, or testimonials rather. Now you can get feedback from people who can share positive feedback on the course.
Absolutely, and I love this part because I think maybe this pulls the pressure back down a little bit. I know that when I start thinking about doing stuff online, I'm immediately thinking of, okay, I'm going to be the #1 on Google. I'm going to get thousands of hits. It's going to be chaos. How am I going to manage all of that? And this part of the process seems like we're breaking it up into the smaller chunks and, start small. Grab a few people, either their trusted friends, maybe their work colleagues, but just, you only need 6-9 people to run this by and get some real world feedback. I think probably recording these is probably a great idea. Is that something you advise?
Yeah, absolutely. Record everything. As much as you can, record everything, record the live sessions. And what I have recommended to some people is once you've gone through the pilot program, you can actually take those recordings and repurpose that as course content. You just chop it up, take out the speaking portions, or some people even leave it in because it just shows that there was engagement in the program from the persons who enter later on at the full launch. So yeah, absolutely.
Excellent. And I think maybe one thing that we've skipped over a little bit here is making sure to get a consent release from everybody in the course so that you can use their recording and not have to worry about, them coming back later and saying, hey, I didn't give you permission for that. Make sure it's something that I am still not super great at, is making sure I get those consent forms signed. Sorry, Nicole, she's my manager and is the one that holds me to task on that. But it really is important, and it eliminates so many headaches.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's a great point. Fortunately for myself, my clients have always been open. But for the most part, I think it's just an ethical approach to ensuring that everyone is on board.
For sure.
So we're coming up to the final things here. So after you've done that, now you can publicly launch your course. You have the testimonials, you have a solid email list, you have a solid landing page now that is converting. At this point, now you can start leveraging like partnerships or influencers for greater reach, maybe even considering paid ads to really throw some gasoline on it. And there are many different ways that you can go about it. You can do discounts or engage with other people live as well, just perpetuating those live options to get people into the program. And that is really just what takes the course to the next level. Once you have done that, I love that you said that. It really you're more comfortable when you're able to teach in a space with people on Zoom, and that builds up confidence, allows you to now have a foundation to really stand on. Okay, yeah, this course is it's making some moves, and I'm able to help people, and it's proven, it's tested, and now it's easier to show up for other people.
Excellent. Yeah, and I think also maybe looping back again to that smaller beta crew or whatever name that they're comfortable with. That really, I think, helps. Me at least, I can quickly see people's reactions in those courses, right? And I can see if I'm losing them, if what I'm talking about is not interesting at all, or if I've got their attention, right? And it's as simple as just seeing that they're looking at the screen. If I see that they're looking away from the screen, then it's a clear indicator that whatever I'm trying to teach is not connecting. And I think that that's really important, because when you start creating recordings and selling those recordings as your course, if you haven't done that step of gauging, like, okay, how engaging is all of this, that's where you might lose a whole lot of people, is because you've not really done that work of checking with actual people how good this coursework is.
Yeah, absolutely. And to add to that, I think one of the things that people neglect a lot when it comes to creating the online course and having teaching people in their program is the engagement aspect of it, right? Ensuring that there's a level of you like, once you've sold people, you still have to put effort into retaining them as clients. I'll admit that there are times that I've bought many different courses and I'm going through the material, I show up live, and if it's not engaging enough for me, if I don't feel like I'm really making progress, then most times I fall off. Like right now, courses are suffering from a 3% completion rate. That's 3% of persons who purchase the program typically complete it all the way through. So you can imagine how many people are just there, kind of lost in the weeds of the program. So I think there's ways of gamification and really just ensuring, okay, how can I make this more engaging? How can I really get people to the transformation that they desire? So that's a really great point, and I think it's one of the reasons that courses get a bad rep, Roger. People are like, oh, another course again, or another coaching program. It's because they're just not developed in a way that people really get to achieve the desired outcome. But the more that you just think about your client and think about your students and how you can get them there, I think you're gonna be moving in a good space.
Absolutely. What are your thoughts on? And I know we're kind of at the end here. I kind of want to do a recap and then see if we've got any questions from our viewers on LinkedIn. What's your thought about course length? Because I I buy a lot of courses, and I am one of these 3%ers, if not less, right, of completion. There'll be like good parts of the course. I'll get some good nuggets out of it, and then honestly, I just don't have the time to spend on some of these courses. They're too long. Is my take. What's your take on course length? How do you kind of gauge how long and how in depth one particular course needs to be versus maybe it needs to be split up into multiple courses?
Yeah, I got this exact question at WordCamp US. And I'll say what I said then. My approach to that is really, and it sounds like I'm a broken scratch record here, but you really need to determine what it is that your ideal client avatar needs or your student needs to get from where they are to where they need to be. All right. Transformation is the goal, not information.
Okay.
The more you just kind of load up a course, is the more that people can get confused along the way. I ask people, hey, listen, if I told you, Roger, that I could teach you how to build an online course in the next 3 months, but you had to go through 100 videos of content. Imagine that was the process. Yeah, it's a simple process. Go through 100 videos. Or if I told you, hey, I have the step-by-step process, it's 3 modules with 2 lessons each, and you'll be able to achieve the same outcome. More than likely, people are going to navigate to, oh, I want to get it done in a faster time period, and also I want it to be more concise. And so you really have to think about what is absolutely essential to get the person to the desired outcome, and not just flooding them with information that just, it becomes that information overload that we spoke about, where people just can't consume as much information. Just take them through the steps that they absolutely require, and you don't need a million. Like, I know that's typically what most gurus tend to talk about, highlight how much modules and 10 hours of content. And I'm like, I don't want to go through 10 hours. Can you teach me that in less time? Can I watch just a couple less videos and less resources? And I think resources is another way to kind of expedite that process. Having like a workbook, like, hey, these are the things you absolutely need to do. Because some people may enter your course and they are further along in the process. You know what I mean? So the more you have it concise and streamlined, it's going to be better. And, you might get that 3% up.
Perfect. All right. Excellent. Okay. So we've got, we'll take some questions from the viewers. And we've got one here from April, my good friend April. Hey, her question
April.
is, in the age of AI, do you feel like courses are becoming irrelevant as AI can provide more customized instant feedback with educational step-throughs?
Okay, so let me just get that correctly. She wants to know how can AI be implemented in this process?
Well, it sounds like for her, she's seeing AI kind of replaces courses because you can just talk with AI now and say, hey, teach me this thing. Hey, explain that into more detail. So in the age of AI, where I can just go to ChatGPT and ask it all these questions, where do you see an expert's course still playing a role?
Okay, I understand. And it's a good question because we are in a space where, you're absolutely right, April. There's a lot of things you can just flock to ChatGPT for. But again, I go back to my statement about transformation and not information. What these AI models are doing, they're actually just scanning the internet and scanning what information is currently out there and just regurgitating it to you. And if that's what you want to get to the outcome, then sure. But I strongly believe that most people are looking for a more personal touch on how to achieve what they want. And most times, depending on the type of course, they're looking for a specific type of interaction. And that's something that AI just can't currently give. I'm not saying that we probably can't get there. But for right now, there are aspects of the process that only I can share with you one-on-one. if I'm the expert, I know the things that I've gone through, if I'm my own ideal client avatar, that I've experienced, that I'm going to be able to speak to. I'm going to be able to provide a level of support that ChatGPT can't. You know, I'm hopping on a Zoom call. I can't do that with ChatGPT, at least not right now. And which, I mean, I've seen some levels of where AI is kind of infiltrating into online courses. Funny enough, there was a program that the course creator asked me, hey, how can I get a avatar of myself into the program? I don't know if people are going to be open to that as well too, but it is an interesting concept. So I think, yeah, there's that level of support that you can't get from an AI model right now that I think is still very crucial for people.
Absolutely, and I think to build on that too is, I remember when I was studying the internet stuff back in the 90s for college, and there was a big debate about, why are we going to need libraries anymore? We can just go on the internet and we can find all this information. And one of the things that my instructor reminded us of is when you're at a shelf of books in a library, there's a lot of serendipity that can happen. You're looking for one book, but all you have to do is look one book over and there's a totally different book that you might not have ever considered, and now you can grab that. And as a expert, your job is to find those serendipity moments, find those unique values that maybe I'm not thinking of, just because I'm in my own head, I'm thinking about what I need to be focused on. And here's this online course that suddenly reminds me of something completely different from where my headspace is at. And April's got a part of there about curation. And I think that plays a big role, right? Is making sure that we're taking our experiences and getting those into the course and making it unique, right? And so very exciting. Great question, April. Thank you.
Absolutely.
So we're kind of getting near to the end here, Michael. What are your thoughts about kind of wrapping up, last second thoughts for anyone who's, again, they're on this edge of like, hey, I really want to do an online course, but I don't know where to start. I don't know if I'm worth enough to make something. What are some last words that you might give to somebody to really encourage them to take this step?
Sure. Yeah. What can I say? The world needs you. You. I'm talking to whoever's watching this at the moment, whether it's live or after the fact. The world needs your information. They need your voice. They need to know that there are people who are willing to share their expertise. It's something I strongly advocate for, just sharing your knowledge with the world. It's one aspect of making the world a better place, in my opinion. We're able to learn from each other. And so if you are currently struggling with those thoughts of whether or not your voice is worth being heard or where to start, what I would say is just take it in steps. Yeah, right? We kind of covered a number of those steps in this particular video. Just kind of revisit those and determine, okay, where am I in the process? All right, who am I helping? And what is my expertise and what can I share? And I think having that mindset really does take away the pressure of having to, think about all the other nuances of creating an online course. All right. In fact, what I think most people should do is just start. Just start somewhere. It's easy to really get caught up with all the things. But if it just means, hey, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to put out a survey and ask my friends and family, hey, what am I good at? Just start there, right? Maybe it might even be, to some extent, I don't always recommend this, but maybe find a domain name. Find a domain name. Feel like you're just making progress. I know how it can be paralyzing when you just don't absolutely know where to start. And fortunately, this is what I help people with. So if you're looking for someone who can really take you through the process step by step, then you can go to courseacademyonline.com or go to courseacademyonline.com/application, and we can have a chat. There's no obligation to join the program. If anything, I'm hoping that I can give you enough value on that call so that you can determine what the next steps are for you.
Excellent. I think that's great advice. Michael, it's always great talking with you in general, but really diving into your subject matter expertise is very inspiring. And you may have a convert here. I may be putting in some serious effort here amongst all the other stuff that I'm doing, but creating an online course, I'm feeling very motivated now. So I thank you for your time.
Awesome.
If anybody needs to get in touch with Michael, he will have links in the descriptions below. And of course, if you're looking for a WordPress host for your learning management system website, Kinsta is always here to help out and answer any questions you might have about that. So thank you everyone for tuning in, and thank you, Michael. I look forward to speaking with you again soon.
Yes, thank you so much, Roger, for having me. This was great. And for those in the chat, stay tuned.
Excellent.